When I play up game and then talk, I'm trying, Jennifer.
Rip City. Can you believe it? We're back. It's been 4 weeks. It's been the longest 4 weeks of my life. Every time we go to do a podcast, something comes up. We are back. 4 weeks has been a long time. I think that's the longest we've gone without recording a podcast. But thankfully, we are here. We're free tonight to do a podcast. It's going to be rusty now because it's been 4 weeks. But we got Fowad with me. Fowad, how are you tonight?
I apologize for my part in missing those weeks too. I started working about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and this 9 to 5 is really killing me. So we normally record around 10, 11 my time, and I've been exhausted normally, so that's partly my fault as well. But I'm here now, I'm happy, and hopefully from now moving forward, we can stick back to our weekly schedule.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. I mean, you're a warrior for doing it at 10 o'clock at night. I mean, mainly that's probably my fault because I have to wait until both the kids fall asleep, or at least till one, so my wife can deal with the other one. But yeah, I mean, so 4 weeks. What anything new? Anything new in the 4 weeks?
New? I don't think so. Honestly, just everything day to day, same old, nothing too exciting.
Well, I've got something exciting to talk about. I've discovered the saying of once you turn 30, your body starts to just die on you is 100% correct. I for the first time in 3 years started playing basketball again for a city league, and not only is this the worst I've ever been at basketball in my entire life, it's bad. It's bad. Not only that, every single game I have come out with a different injury, and it's not something I'm ever used to. I've never been a player that's got hurt when I play, and every single game so far I have hurt myself somehow, and I don't know what's going on with my body. So I'm getting old. I can feel it in my bones.
I feel like I'm 30 by that standard too, because I get hurt, almost every time. Usually mine are pretty minor, I'll be good in a day or two, but occasionally I get a big one too. So
yeah, I mean, there was a week, 1 week we couldn't do the podcast because I had to go to the urgent care because my back was hurting so bad. That's how bad it's getting, guys. It's don't get old, don't get out of shape, don't get fat. Just it's even a testament to how crazy. I know Dame is 10,000 times in better shape than I am, but just a testament to how crazy it is, how I feel playing one game on a Sunday compared to Dame playing, it's just, I like burgers and donuts way too much. But you guys aren't here to hear about my basketball career. You're here to listen to some Trailblazer talk. And I want to shout out the Trailcasters for holding it down the last couple weeks while we weren't producing anything. They still were. So thank you to the Trailcasters for that. But it's the trade deadline. We're I think it's Friday, right? Or is it Thursday? I think it's Friday.
I think it's Thursday actually.
Oh, is it Thursday? See,
I'll just
look
double
rusty.
check. I'm pretty sure it's on the 9th, which is Thursday.
It is the 9th. You're right. It is the 9th. We are we're getting up there. It's the 7th right now. I guess it's a perfect time to come back and do a podcast for the first time in 4 weeks. So we've already done a We've already done a podcast where I talked about wanting to trade Simons, and I think more people have. I don't know. I feel like more people have gotten on that bus. I think there's still people that are against it, but I think more people are more open to that idea than they were when I first mentioned it. But here's what I'm going to say. If you are wanting Simons traded as, badly as some people do, don't get your hopes up, because I do not believe this trade deadline we are going to trade Simons. I don't believe this trade deadline we're going to do much of anything. I think the one thing for sure we're gonna do, and we'll probably hear it on Thursday, is that we trade Josh Hart. Um, all signs have pointed to that for a while now. And, as much as I like Josh Hart and he's provided a lot for us, he's also kind of hurt us. I don't know what happened from last year to this year with him shooting, but he it's not pretty anymore. It's
It, it's not even just last year. Like his entire career, he's been like 37,
Yep.
39%, and just off a cliff this year.
Yeah, I mean, last year he scored what, 40 for us that one game.
44, I think.
And here we are thinking, "Oh my god, we got Josh Hart, he can play the 2," and now it's like teams are legitimately just leaving him wide open and saying, "Yeah, please shoot the ball." And he doesn't want to. And I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's crazy because he is a decent shooter. He can knock down open threes. Um so it's gonna suck missing his defense. It's gonna suck missing his rebounds. It's gonna suck missing his, him pushing the ball down the court and the tempo that he brings to the games. But I have a feeling, and I think most people agree, he is gonna be traded. What about you, Fawad? How do you feel about this going into this trade deadline?
Yeah, I said Josh Hart had shot like 37, 39%. This year was 37 for us, and he had one other year, his rookie year, which is 39.6. But turns out his career 3-point percentage is actually only 34. Still significantly worse this year, but the drop off isn't as big as I thought. But anyways, back to what I expect for this deadline. Pretty much what you said. I think Josh Hart is the likeliest to be traded. Even though he has been underwhelming, I still don't want that to happen because I think he, even if it takes him a while or if it's next year, I think he can still get back to, who he was last year. And I know he has a player option, but I think whether he opts in or out, like I think either way he would be willing to stay with us. So that's what I'm not like too worried about him leaving. But I don't know. I guess maybe the front office is, and I know a lot of other people are. But in general, my one big expectation, or not really expectation, but what I would want us to do is, improve our bench, get some bench scoring. Defense would be ideal, but that doesn't seem to work out. Time we make a defensive trade, just it doesn't improve our defense at all. So at least let's share some of the scoring load. I feel like it's all Dame. These last 2-3 weeks now, and probably even the last month. It's been, Dame 40, Dame 38, 45. I think he had a 1 or 2 50-point games. I don't remember.
Yep.
Just one?
I think just one.
Okay. But yeah,
I could be wrong.
Grant has cooled down a little bit. He's still playing well. He's just not scoring as much. I think like his percentages are probably fairly similar. I think Ant's cooled down except for a couple big games. It's just been all Dame, and we need some other people to balance that scoring load. So if that's Vanderbilt, and that's someone we're going to talk about later, or someone else, I just want, if we're trading Hart, get us someone who can create their own shot off the bench. That's what I want.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone that's hoping for some big crazy trade, it's not happening.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we aren't getting Siakam as much as I want it to happen.
Yeah, and also, you said 50 points. We're forgetting he scored 60 points as well.
Oh, right.
So he's had a 60-point game, a 50-point game, a ton of 40-point games. I mean, literally, he is the Trailblazers. He is carrying without him, the score would probably be 150 to 27. The way that our team is playing.
It's been one of the best stretches of his career for sure.
Yes, for sure. And not to get sidetracked off of trades, but everyone that was afraid of his injury, coming off of his injury and being as old as he is, and he's not even that old. I think he's pretty much proved every single person wrong. This is, I think, probably his best year. Like he, let me pull up his stats real quick. This isn't something we planned on talking about, but I'm gonna pull it up real quick.
He's averaging a career high in points per game. So
yeah, career high in points. Yep.
But
so he is shooting. He's shooting better. He's shooting the best he's ever shot percentage-wise from 2. A little bit worse from 3. Free throws are up there towards the top. Assists are down a little bit. Or no, sorry. Yeah, assists are down a little bit, and rebounds are about where they were.
Down relative to the last few years, but they're still like in the upper half of his
Oh
career.
yeah, 7 assists is still good. I mean, that's
Yeah.
still good, especially when you're scoring 30 points. So,
Mm.
in my opinion, the way he's playing and what he's had to deal with, this is definitely his best year. I don't know.
His
It's
highest true shooting as well.
true. Yeah, I mean, he's just very. He said it himself. He's like, if I get healthy, like how I feel, he's gonna impress a lot of people, and he's impressed me even more. I mean, year 10 of him or year 11, and he's averaging the most points he's ever averaged. So it's crazy. But back to trades. We all know Dame is the man and is, in my opinion, the best Blazer of all time. But let's talk about some trades. So you brought up Jared Vanderbilt. I believe a lot of people, that's the number one guy that we want to try to get. That's realistically that we could get. That's not like some big home run swing where we're trading a bunch of people for a big name player. I think Thursday we're gonna hear Jared Vanderbilt is being traded to us. A lot of people are saying 2 seconds, and Keon is one of the popular opinions. I've also heard just 2 seconds, which I don't find that one to be. I would expect that they would want, like, I could see Keon. I mean, he's a younger player. They're they're in that zone of, do we rebuild? Do we try to keep building on what we have? So I could see them trying that. What do you think as far as Vanderbilt goes? Like, what do you think a realistic trade is for him?
Yeah, I think he's probably the only player we've been rumored around. I think Shams said we're the favorites to get him, and in the Utah reporters, they've said he's the most likely to be traded. And he makes sense for us. Keon in 2 seconds, if that salary works, I haven't checked myself. I think that's fair trade for both sides. I don't know if I'm being a little bit homer there. They might want a first round pick, but I definitely want to pay a first round pick from our situation right now. I don't think we can afford to do that for a player like Vanderbilt. But 2 seconds, I think that's fair. That's reasonable. Like you said, he's not just a throw-in. He is talented. He's not going to be a superstar, but he could probably play his way into a rotation for the Jazz or for another team if they wanted to like flip him. So I think that's a fair trade. I'm trying to think if I would be willing to throw in Hart, but I feel like I would want someone else. But I don't know if they would want to give someone else as well. So I think, maybe Hart could work, but most likely Keon or maybe even Winslow, who I don't know what happened to him. Is he okay? Is he alive? Like,
I don't know what's going on with him.
maybe he could be thrown in as a filler instead of Keon, but I think it's just one of those fringe rotation guys with a second or two. That's probably what I would expect us to give up. And in terms of Vanderbilt as a player, I haven't seen him too much, but I know Jazz fans like him a lot. His numbers look decent. I think he could be good for us. I would be excited for that. Just again, I don't know if I would want to give up Hart if that was on the table. I would rather do Keon or Winslow with seconds, but that's just me.
Yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of a first. I don't hate it, but I also don't like it. I don't know. I feel weird trading a first for like a rotation player. Like I feel like he could be a star. I don't know. He's like on that fringe of, is he good enough to be a starter? Is he good enough? Is he like coming off the bench? Um, I I don't know. I'm torn on it. I'm not a fan of giving a first for him, but I also do want him on our team. So if that's really what it took, and there was no other way, I would I would probably be okay with it. I wouldn't like it though. Um, are you still here?
But we were talking about um, Vanderbilt, right? Oh yeah. Quick little tangent here. I actually don't want us to trade a first at all. This deadline, unless it is like a Siakam, but in
Yeah.
general, a couple of reasons why. One, still haven't given our first to Chicago, so that means we would have to lift our protections for that, and
Hmm.
they'll likely want to take a second for that. So we're burning a second for no reason, and then we're also unprotecting a pick that, let's be honest, very well could be in the lottery this year. And then two, 3, I don't know what point I'm on. I think 3. If that pick does, even if it does convey and we're like free of our restrictions after this year, that's still one less pick that we have in the future. So then we'd only have, I think, 3 tradable picks in the summer, which is when we're more likely to actually make a big move if one was on
Hmm.
the table. So I don't want to limit our assets in the summer for something that, probably isn't gonna be a game changer. I don't see any game changing trades on the table for us right now. So I want to save all our assets for the summer.
Exactly. That's perfectly said. You're giving up a very, very important asset for like a improvement, yes, but it's not changing the way we feel about the team like drastically. Um, I have said this 100 times, in Discord, on Twitter. I've said it on the podcast. I firmly believe that you cannot try to build a contender while also still saving for the future. I've said it. We just have to commit to one or the other. You either need to go all in and try to win, or you need to just commit to the future. And I think we're kind of seeing that right now, where they're still playing the well. Hopefully we can win with Dame and CJ, Dame and Simons and Sharp and Nurk. But I don't want to give up Simons and Sharp and Nurk and all these picks that we have because they'll be valuable in the future, and the future will still be a decent team. To me, you have Damian Lillard, who's like I just said earlier, playing the best basketball he's ever played. Right now is the time to go all in for this year and for next year, and I don't necessarily expect this year for us to win, but next year and the year after are our last, in my opinion, our last 2 real chances to really, really, really make a run for it. With Dame still being like our best player. Now, if something were to change where he wasn't our best player, then that's different. But I agree with you. Using a first on Vanderbilt, as much as I do like him and think he's a good addition, it feels like a bit of an overpayment for me too. And I would much rather use those in the offseason for trades to build a better team. Closer to we all know once the draft gets closer, teams start getting a little more, oh, okay, that first round pick does sound a little nice, or next year's first round pick does sound a little bit better than it does right now. So I much rather would make moves in the offseason than right now. But we talked about Josh Hart and how we both agree he's probably the one that's going to get moved. So I want to throw out a couple trade scenarios, and I want to get your opinions on them. The first one I do not like whatsoever, and if this happens, I would be extremely pissed off. Josh Hart for Mo Bamba.
Nope.
How do you feel about
Pass.
that?
Next.
Okay. Yeah, we don't even have to talk about that. And if you guys like that idea, I'm sorry. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say. The next one that I've seen rumored, and it seems like the Cavs were the one that was linked to Josh Hart the most recently, was for Osman, and then Windler, which I'm not sure who Windler is. Do you know who that is?
I know his name, Dylan Windler. I don't know how good he is.
Yeah, I don't know much about him. I'm not a big fan of this trade either. Um, I'm not Osman's not
I was high on Osman a few years ago, but I feel like he hasn't really gotten
Yeah,
much better.
he like at that point, I'd rather just risk keeping Josh Hart. Like
Yeah.
if that's what you're gonna do, I'd rather just have Josh Hart. Um, this trade though, I have not seen rumored, and I'm a little. I do like this one. Um, I don't think this happens, but I do like this one. Um, so it's Josh Hart and Justice Winslow for Holmes and Davion Mitchell from the Kings. That I could be a little more. I would be a little more okay with because I believe Winslow's contract expires this year, right?
I think so, but what was it? Hart and Winslow, you said?
Hart and Winslow for Holmes and Mitchell.
See, I feel like talent-wise, or like value-wise, that's a fair trade. We might even be winning that, but I don't know about the fit. Holmes
I think Holmes could be a good off the bench for us.
he could if he goes back to how he was a few years ago, but he's been kind of a wash recently. He
Well,
might
let me ask you
he
this.
might still
Let
be
me ask you
okay.
this.
Yeah.
As much as we like Eubanks, and we are impressed with what he's done, would you rather have Holmes or Eubanks coming off the bench for
Yeah,
you?
that's what I was about to say. I think I probably would prefer Eubanks, or even if Holmes is better, I don't think it's a meaningful difference. So it would just be like having two Eubanks. That's why I'm not like
Okay, so I will be the first to admit I do not watch a lot of Sacramento Kings.
he doesn't even really play this year. I think he's out of the rotation. But
Yeah,
even
you're right. He's only averaging 3 points right now, so 9 minutes a game.
I think
And you know what? Maybe it could be kind of like a Nurk situation where he just needs a
yeah,
different, he needs a change of scenery and he plays better. I don't think Holmes is terrible. I mean, he's been a good player before in the
yeah,
past.
he was really good. For
So
sure.
I'm a fan of that trade. Let me put it this way: if that happened, I wouldn't hate that trade. I wouldn't necessarily like the Osman trade with the Cavs, and I hail no to Mo Bamba. Like hail no.
My bigger issue with this one that you just said though is like one, I don't think Sacramento probably wants to give up Mitchell anyways, but
Yeah, I don't think so either.
even if we got him, I don't love the fit because he's another guard. He's a good defender, but he's pretty small. His offense is coming around, but it's not really there. So like he has a lot of value in general. I don't think he has a ton of value to us. I think he doesn't fit our timeline. He doesn't really fit our rotation. So I don't think we should be trading for him.
Yeah, and I'm looking at him right now. He is dropped in minutes significantly too. He's only playing 18 minutes a game.
Oh, really?
So I don't know. I don't know what's going on in Sacramento. Like I said, I don't really pay too much attention to them. I'm glad that they're doing well this year. And last I checked, they were like in third place. Um,
Yeah.
but that's about all I pay attention to. Yeah, they're in third place right now. So out of the 3 trades I just mentioned, that one I would be the most for, but I don't think that one happens. I think Sacramento is in a good spot, and they're. I mean, Josh Hart would help them, but they also have Harrison Barnes. I guess he's more of a power forward than a small forward, but I don't know. Is there a trade that you saw for Josh Hart that you liked?
There's nothing at all that really got me excited, unfortunately. Everything
Yeah,
I
and
felt like either we're not getting enough back or like they're unrealistic and we wouldn't get that in return. So yeah, I didn't see anything I like, but also again, as you guys can probably tell from the last like 10 podcasts we've done, I do like Hart more than most people, so I might have been biased in my evaluation of those trades. But
I mean,
yeah,
I don't think you are. I think a lot of the trades that we've seen that we've discussed in Discord. If you guys are not in Discord, get in Discord. Um, I feel like a lot of those trades I would just rather have Josh Hart.
yeah.
Um,
Like again, I get the risk about his player option, but he said he wants to be here. That's from his own mouth, and I think there he's not gonna ask for too much money, so that's not an issue either. So I think it's worth actually going to free agency with him.
well, and do you think he's played enough to think he's worth more than 17 million?
Is his option for 17? I thought it was much less than
I
that.
thought it was 17. I
I
could be
thought it was
wrong, but
like
I thought it was
13.
17.
17,
let
I
me
think
pull
he
it up.
definitely opts in, but I thought it was around 13, and I could see him going up to like asking for 17, 18. But
Let me look. Let me look.
I am checking as well. But yeah, like again, if he opts out, I think regardless of like if
You're
he
right.
opts
It
out,
is only 13.
okay, that's what I thought. But yeah, I think he could opt out and ask for like a 4-year, like 17 per. What does that come out to, like 70 million? Like that, I could see him wanting. I think even if he stays with us, honestly, like if we decided to not trade him at the deadline, we would probably work together for a longer term contract. So he's probably opting out either way, but I don't think him opting out would mean that he's leaving us. So that's why I'm more willing to that risk.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like maybe his expiring contract is why people think we can't get too much for him, but I don't know, just weird.
Well, and you brought up expiring contracts, so we want to talk about Jeremy Grant in just a second. But
That is a good.
remember when we had Norman Powell and we signed him? What was it? 5 years for 90 or 4 for? I think it was 5 for 90.
Yeah.
You and I both we liked Norman Powell. We didn't think he was like a great player, but we thought he was a good player and he fit well with us. And we were okay with 5 years for 90 million. Why would we? I think. Let me ask you this: would you rather have Josh Hart on your team or Norman Powell?
If we're basing it off this year's Josh Hart, I'll take Norman Powell. But in general, I think probably Josh Hart.
Yeah. So in general, you would rather have Josh Hart. So if we're getting him for somewhere around 4 years for 70 million, I'm okay with that. I think that's reasonable, and I think he would probably be okay with that. He's like we've said before. He's one of those players that he does all the little things that you need if you're a championship team. He's one of those players that just does the little things that don't always necessarily show up on the stat sheet, and sometimes they do when he's getting 18, 19 rebounds a game. I mean, he's in my opinion probably the best rebounding guard in the league. I don't think there's probably one better.
Yeah.
And when you have Jeremy Grant, who's not the greatest rebounder, you definitely need someone that can pick up that slack, and he has all year.
He balances him out.
Yes. So let's talk about Jeremy Grant real quick. We offered him a contract extension for 4 years, 121.
No, 100 and was it 21?
Or no.
I thought no, it's 30 something. No, no,
I thought it was
128 maybe. I should know this.
We weren't planning on talking about it,
Yeah.
so we didn't even think about it. When you brought it up, I remembered.
Um,
Either way, whatever it was, he decided not to sign the extension. And let's be honest, smart on him. I don't blame him. He gets an extra year added onto his contract if he waits till the offseason. 112. Okay, I knew there was a 2 in there somewhere. My dyslexia was kicking in. So 4 years, 112 million. He doesn't choose to sign that extension, and I don't blame him. Everyone thought the sky was falling and he's not going to sign with us and we need to trade him now. Everyone pump your brakes. Pump your brakes. Would you rather have 4 years, 112 million or 5 years, 130 million or 140 million, whatever it comes out to be? You're obviously going to take longer security with 5 years and more money. I mean, it's just common sense. So for him to do that, I would be afraid if he didn't do that. And I mean, I wouldn't be afraid. I mean, I'd love if he would have done it. But it's smart.
Yeah, I obviously would prefer that he took the extension. I'm not worried about him leaving in the off season, but I am worried about us paying him a little bit more than I would like to. But I think let's not spend too much time on this topic. That's more for free agency. But what do you think?
This one
is that around what you're thinking as well?
No, I agree. I 100% agree with you. I'm not afraid that he's going to leave, but I am, like you said, I'm afraid we spend a little bit more to keep him. But you know what? I think he's a good player, and we'll talk about that later because that's not something that's going away anytime soon. The last thing I wanted to talk about was Nurkic. I know a lot of people are.
We kind of touched on this, but I think since it's kind of the hot thing to like everyone's talking about, I want to spend a couple minutes talking about. What do you think We
Oh, you broke up. Say that again.
well, I want to spend a few minutes talking about OG. I know we had
Oh,
talked about
yes.
him. I think it was last podcast, which was like an eternity ago. But since everyone's talking about trading for him, one, I want to know, do you think we should trade for him? And two, if you do, what would that package look like?
So everyone that's listening probably knows my opinion. I am much higher on OG than a lot of people are. I think that guy right there, if he comes to our team, that helps out so much. And I think if I could trade, I mean, I love Pascal, but I think his asking price is going to be, it should be more than OG's. So I think it's just going to be a little out of our range. I want OG more than any other player that's in the trade market right now. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's not going to happen because we both know how Toronto is. Toronto always wants to have the absolute most value for every trade they do. They trade a second, they want a first for it. So, like it's tough to do, but maybe as it gets closer to the deadline and they're not getting what they want, maybe they decide. I would trade Simons. I have no issue trading Simons for OG. I wouldn't even hesitate for 1 second. If that was what was holding up a trade with Simons, throw him in there. I'm not as big a fan of giving up Simons and Sharp like some people have suggested is what we would have to do, only because I think Sharp can fetch us something else in the off season. So for me, OG, I mean, I would not complain about getting OG at all. So I know Randy's not very big on OG. I know there's a couple other people in Discord that weren't very big on him. I think Vibin wasn't very big on him. But I have made it clear. I think he is the type of player you put on our team. He helps out. He's good offensively. He's not okay. He's not great offensively like Simons is, but he's still good offensively. And he's great defensively where Simons is just, we already know. So to me, the trade-off, and I know shooting kind of, this could be a whole podcast. I mean, I could sit here and talk about this forever, so I don't want to spend forever, but OG for me would be, we get OG in this trade deadline, I might get a tattoo of Joe Cronin's face somewhere on my body. I don't know. What about you?
Wow. Yeah, I could also talk about this for quite some time, but I am 100% on the other end of the spectrum. I'm a lot lower on OG than most people. A couple reasons for that. First, which is probably the least big reason, is he is somewhat injury prone.
That is my one red
A
flag.
lot of the time he has missed, or I don't know about a lot, but like a good chunk has been due to COVID, so that shouldn't count. But his first few years, he had some real injuries that came up more than you would like. But my biggest issue with him is, you said he's good offensively. I don't think he is anymore. He was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. He was really good. I feel like these last 2 seasons, he's dropped off significantly, and he hasn't developed any ability to create his own shot, which you can argue that he wouldn't need to create his own shot with us, which is why I would be okay with him if we traded like Sharp in a first. But if we're trading Simons, I'm not on board with that at all, because if we trade Simons, we have exactly two shot creators on our team in Dame and Grant. So, that I'm not too excited about that.
So you're saying you're okay with trading Sharp for him, but not Simons?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who do you value more, out of curiosity?
They're close to me. I think both of them, they bring value. I think I would value Sharp just a little bit more because I think he can eventually develop into a better defensive player and still be a very good offensive player as well. So I probably value Sharp just a little bit more. And he's on a rookie contract
That's fair, but at the same time,
with team control.
at the same time, if, like you talked about earlier, if we're trying to build around Dame, you have to focus on now, So that's why I'm.
Well, no, yeah, you're 100% right, and I meant in the fact that we could trade Sharp for
Okay,
someone,
got it.
and
Yeah,
you trade Sharp for somebody
sure,
else. Yeah,
makes sense.
sorry.
Yeah. So Sharp, I would be more willing to do, because then we'd keep Ant, still bring in OG to only catch and shoot. But if we're trading Simons, I'm not with that because it's gonna be it's gonna be so frustrating to watch OG on our team being forced to create when he literally cannot. I was looking at his pull up numbers and he's literally one of the worst in the league. Um, so like he's okay at driving like off ball. I don't know if if you can call it creation, but he finds himself open around the rim to get the pass and dunk it in. So he's decent at that. But even his shooting has kind of fell off. He's only at 36%, which is like barely above average. It's just average, to be honest, if you're catching and shooting. Like it's fine, but I don't he would be our third option if we traded Simons for him. So I don't think I wouldn't want to do that. And then also uh like his 2 point percentage is not great, but I feel like watching him again dunking around the basket, he's like decent at. So I think he might be just shooting too many mid ranges. I don't know why his percentage is so low, but even his overall true shooting is below league average. So his offense these last few years has really fallen off, and that's why I'm really hesitant on trading him. It might be okay long term, once we have an off season to get that depth, but I don't know how we're getting that depth if we're trading some of our best assets for OG. So I know most Blazers fans are probably okay with trading Simons for OG, but you know, I know I'm the minority here, but I think he's not worth it, and the price for trading him is going to be pretty high. I don't think there's any way we can get him without trading either Ant or like Simons and a first. I mean, Sharp and a first. So I think the price is too high, and he's not good enough of a player to make it worth it.
Yeah, and I mean, I see that, but I also want to ask you this because obviously you watch Toronto a lot more than I do. Do you find it peculiar that his offense kind of started to dip a little bit when they got Scotty Barnes? And I know Scotty Barnes hasn't been very good this year, but you have OG, Barnes, and Siakam, who are all pretty much small forward, power forward players, all playing together, and it doesn't. I don't think it's working, and I think that's why Toronto's not as good this year, and why they kind of were slipping last year. I think that people say I think it was Randy was saying like if OG was so good, if they were all so good and so valuable, why is it not working in Toronto? I think the fit just isn't there. I think you have like 3 forwards fighting for one and a half spots, and it just isn't working out. So do you think if he comes to Portland, let me ask you this, do you think he gets better looks offensively in Portland than he does with Toronto? And do you think his numbers just offensively go up more because he's probably going to be, like you said, the third option, sometimes the second option? What do you think? How does that feel?
I would think he gets better looks in Portland, but again, if we're trading Simons, we need him to be doing more than just catching and shooting. So when we need him to score, when Dame's on the bench, or he's being double teamed, we're gonna need him to do more than just catch the ball and shoot an open three. And I don't think that part of his game is gonna get better. Maybe you can argue there's more spacing here than in Toronto, but I don't know. I don't think that if that's enough of a factor to turn around his game. His raw numbers, like his points per game, they might go up. They might stay this. Actually, I don't think they would go up since he is the third or fourth option there. But like they don't have a first option like Dame who's scoring 30 points a game. So it's more balanced there. So I don't think his numbers would change too much. But that was a really interesting point about Scotty Barnes. I'm still trying to wrap my head around if that is a factor. Obviously the fit isn't great, but I'm trying to think about if OG's performance individually is hurt by it. But
well, let's do this because I like this discussion. I think, and it's not often that me and you are on opposite sides of what we think. So
rare.
let's save this for the next podcast, and let's talk about this on the next podcast because I like this. It's going to be fun to talk about.
My next podcast will have known whether we traded for him or not, but I'm
true.
down to talk about it.
I don't think we do. I don't think we do, but I want to talk about it anyway, so let's do it. Let's wrap this podcast up real quick, but before we do, I want to talk about something real quick. Nurkic, has been hurt the last couple games. He's going to be out until after the All-Star break, and then he's going to come back. There was rumors that we would trade Nurkic. A lot of people this year and in prior years have been frustrated with Nurkic, and I'm one of them. I get frustrated with his inconsistencies, and some games he looks like old Nurk, and then other games he looks like current Nurk, where he just doesn't seem like he's that interested. But I want to get your opinion on this, because maybe this is just me thinking too much into it, but the last couple of games since we have not had Nurk, normally when we play a team, the guards are always going off on us, having career nights, and we've seen it time and time again, where Austin Rivers cooks CJ. It's every night some guard is going absolutely crazy on us. And since Nurkic has been out and we've been stuck with Eubanks, and I want to stress this, I don't not like Eubanks. We've talked about him multiple times. We like what he's done for us and what he's kind of exceeded what we expected from him. But I just want to talk about this real quick. So last night against the Bucks, Brook Lopez had 27. Okay. Against Chicago, Vucevic had 23, which that's not terrible. It's a little bit higher than what he averages, but that's not terrible. Really, that game, Zach LaVine and DeRozan torched us, but Vooch at the beginning of the game was destroying us. The Wizards, Porzingis absolutely we came back and won that game, but it wasn't because of not for lack of Porzingis. He was destroying us. He had 32. And then probably the biggest shock to me, and I'm sure you probably know where I'm going with this. The first game we didn't have Nurkic, we played Toronto, and Precious Achua, I think that's how you say his name, had a career night with 27 points, 13 rebounds. As much as we get frustrated with Nurk, as much as he annoys us that he can't catch a ball, he fumbles every pass he catches, he can't finish around the rim, he is much better. We are much better with him than without him. He is much better than a majority of the centers in the league, and everyone that's wanting to trade him just to trade him because we're frustrated with him. It's the same situation that we had with CJ. You can't just trade him to trade him because you're mad that he's not old Nurk. You got to get a fair value for him. And you look at Miles Turner, I think we can agree that we probably would rather, if we had to choose between Miles Turner and Nurkic just as a player, we probably would both pick Miles Turner. I think it would be close, but we'd probably both pick Miles Turner. But then you throw in the contract difference. Miles Turner is not that much better than Nurkic is, and you're paying Miles Turner a whole hell of a lot more than you are for Nurkic. So, you may upgrade at your center, but it's so minimal that it's not making that big of a difference, and then you end up paying more. So my before we end the podcast, I just want to know, what's your thoughts on Nurk? Do you think he's worth, are you just to the point where you're so frustrated you want to trade him like everyone else is? Are you what? Just go for it.
I am conflicted about Nurk. I don't think he's a championship winning caliber center. So if we're trying to build a contender, eventually he'll need to be traded, but I don't think he's most pressing concern. I don't think he needs to be traded. I'm okay with him for what he is, and what he is not 2019 Nurk, it's who he is now. So
I miss that Nurk.
I think if we had another center after Eubanks or even ahead of Eubanks, Nurk's issues would not look as bad. Exactly. But because of how bad our depth is, I think that makes his issues look worse because he has to do more. But in terms of trading him, I don't think he has too much value right now. He just signed a new contract that's 4 years long and I think 70 million. So his value will increase over time. But right now, I don't think there's a ton of value there. I don't think it's worth trading him. And again, he's not the biggest issue right now by a long shot, in my opinion. He's probably not like a top 3 issue. So we have to address our
Yep.
bench first, our defense again. But
Yep.
one day he'll need to
I
go if the rest of the team improves enough to get to that point, then he'll need to go or at least be benched. But right now, I don't think there's really a need to trade him unless we get he's part of a package to get like a real like wing or something like an all-star.
Thank you. Okay, so before I end, this is how I'm going to end it. That is exactly what I had told people. If you're going to trade Nurkic, it's got to be for one of two things. You are either trading Nurkic to upgrade at another position like drastically, so you're getting a better small forward or potentially a better power forward. That I would be okay with trading Nurkic for. Or you're trading Nurkic for a equivalent or maybe a little bit better center. We can't just trade Nurkic and go with like, as much as I like Hartenstein, like we can't trade Nurkic for, a bunch of players around Hartenstein's level, and expect us to be a better team or a good team. It doesn't work. I disagree a little bit with you where I disagree and agree with you a little bit. I think Nurkic can be a center on a championship team, but this is where I agree with you. If we have the right depth behind him, he's being forced to defend way more than he has to because Dame and Simons can't keep people in front of him. In front of them, people get to the basket easy. He's out of position. It's all things we've talked about before. I think he is like we had Kevon Looney, Moses Moody. No, Moses Moody's not a center. Sorry, Kevon Looney. Trying to think of who else the center was for. I guess Draymond.
Where?
I mean,
when this last year or
yeah, this last year. Looney, I guess, would be the center. Would you do you think Looney's a championship team center? Like, I don't. He's a decent player. He's a hustle player. He makes hustle plays, but like I think if most people had to pick between having Nurk or Looney, I think a lot of people would pick Nurk. But
tough,
that's a different story because the Warriors have a much better balanced constructed roster than we do. And that's where the depth comes into it. You can let Nurkic be out there when you have, like, for instance, Hartenstein coming off the bench. Like, I would love to have Hartenstein behind Nurk. That's one of the centers that I think we should try to go after and get is Hartenstein. But it's hard to compare the Warriors to us because the Warriors have such a more balanced roster than we do. I don't know. I think I agree with you, though. You can't trade Nurk unless you're upgrading a spot. We can't just trade him because we're frustrated. The same way we couldn't do that with CJ. And in the same way, a lot of people are frustrated with Simons, which I don't truly understand why a lot of people are frustrated with Simons. But I do at the same time. I still think Simons is a good player. There's some people that are like,
I just want to see a version of the Blazers where Dame has a defensive guard as his backcourt mate. That would just once in my lifetime, please see that.
And see, that's something that we talked about with Josh Hart, like that he could play that 2 position. He is a decent, good defender. Usually he's a decent shooter. I don't know what's happening this year. And then we have Gary Payton, which, I mean, I guess we didn't talk about him, but he possibly could be traded too. I don't think he is, but he possibly could be.
I would be shocked.
It's just, I don't know. This podcast isn't long enough for us to talk about everything we want to talk about now. We came into this podcast saying, well, we don't really have a lot to talk about, so let's just talk about a couple of things. And here we are talking about like 10 different things we weren't planning on.
Whoa.
Oh, I was just going to say something just popped up on my phone about Portland.
It's just Shaden Sharp dropped out of the dunk contest.
My heart just skipped a beat for a second.
I was like, whoa, what just happened? But yeah, I think Holdall said it on his podcast, and then shout out James too, I think it was, sent it in our Discord, so it isn't news for us, but we probably should have mentioned it in the episode earlier.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we won't be seeing Shaden. I don't know why. I didn't listen to the podcast, so I don't know if they said why. I don't know why he's not going to be in it. I was looking forward to that.
The official reason was to focus on the second half of the season. I don't know if that's actually what it was, but yeah,
That's the
yeah,
political
that's what
thing to
it felt like
say.
to me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I wonder if it's him frustrated that he's not in the rookie sophomore game, whatever that's called now, the Rising Stars game, whatever it is. Wonder if part of that's him frustrated that he's not there, which I'm surprised he's not, honestly. Um, but yeah, for all those people that want us to get Wembanyama, that ain't happening. We need a gift from God if that's going to happen. Is there anything you want to talk about before we wrap up? I'm glad we got this podcast in. It's I don't know how long it's been. It's probably close to an hour now. So
I think it's been like around 15 minutes, but yeah, no, I think I'm good.
okay, you load up for the OG talk because we're doing that next
I'm good.
episode. Okay, everyone that's listening, we apologize so much for being gone for 4 weeks. And trust me, every Tuesday that rolled around when we couldn't do it, we didn't do it. We didn't not want to do it. We wanted to do it. We just everything came up at the perfect time to not be able to do it. So hopefully that is behind us and we can continue on doing podcasts again because I missed it. Other than that, thank you, Fawad, for coming tonight. Everyone that's listening, thank you for listening. And as always, Rip City, baby. Thanks to My Life Pursuing for the music used on the intros and the outros of this podcast. You can check them out on all major streaming platforms at My Life Pursuing.